Alright, what is up YouTube? So today I'm going to be talking about Lunalights in this video, and I think Lunalights are a very good going second deck because going second is just better in this format. Last format we had VFD, so you had to play a bunch of hand traps in this deck to kind of stop VFD, but now they're more of, negates like Savage, Seal. You have stuff like Winda to deal with now. You have stuff like Schism to deal with that sends your Leo Dancer to the graveyard if they summon the Winda. You have Fleur-de-Lis to deal with. You have, punishment, stuff like that. And then with Dinos, you have stuff like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, and you have the Dolka with the Dinosaur deck. And there's a bunch of other decks that you need to prepare for when playing this deck. But this is how I built the deck. I feel like this is the best way to play the deck. Maybe probably change some of these staples in the deck like droplets and talents, but for the most part I feel like the main deck is pretty perfect. I think the side deck probably needs a little bit of work, maybe change out a few ratios for some more going second cards, but pretty much this is how you're going to be playing the deck. Is you're just turboing out Leo Dancer, just hoping to OTK, or if they're a back row deck, something like Eldritch, you just want to stick this Leo Dancer on the board. Hopefully they can't out it, and then you just win, because a lot of these back row decks or a lot of these control decks, they don't really have an out for Dragoon, and if they don't have an out for Dragoon, they probably just don't have an out for Leo Dancer. And that is just really good for this deck, because if you don't end up OTKing them, you can pretty much on the following turn pretty much attack for game, because Leo Dancer is such a very powerful card. So let's talk about the main deck, and then I'll get into the matchups more about that. For the first card, Black Sheep. Black Sheep is very good. Not only the search poly, but it also gets you a monster from the graveyard when you discard this card. So you can add back Wolf if you really need it. So you can like send Chick, or use Chick's effect to send Wolf, and then Sheep's effect to grab back that Wolf so you can fuse into something like Leo Dancer. Black Sheep as well is when you use it as fusion material. You can get back a Lunalight from your graveyard to your hand, so you can also get Wolf back to your hand, any of the Lunalight back from your graveyard to your hand. So that's really awesome. And then for the next one, Emerald Bird. Emerald Bird is really good, not only to send something like Martin to the graveyard, but you can also send something like Serenade Dance. So now you get more follow-ups, you get more pluses off of that. So that is really good about Emerald Bird. And the other effect of Emerald Bird that is really important is that when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon any of your level 4 or lower banished or in your graveyard Lunalight. So you can summon back your Chick. Chick is going to send another card. You can summon back, Martin, whatever you need for your plays. You can just summon it back onto the field. And then Kaleido Chick is like the best Lunalight. It not only sends a monster from your deck or extra decks to the graveyard as cost, it also adds a card, well, it adds poly from your graveyard to your hand if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect. And then when it's banished, you get to lock your opponent out from using stuff in the battle phase. So Kaleido Chick is just like a god card in this deck. A lot of people don't know what Kaleido Chick does, and that's like a really good plus side, because they like imperm or they like affect Valor, Kaleido Chick, and now they wasted just a card on Kaleido Chick, which is really good. Sometimes they don't know that Kaleido Chick locks you out of the battle phase, or locks effects for them in the battle phase. So sometimes they might have like a Ice Dragon Prison, they might have a Hakero or Conquistador or something like that, and they might not flip it up in the main phase. They'd probably be waiting for the battle phase, and you can just shut them out from using any of those effects in the battle phase. So that is really good. And then the one purple butterfly, it's really good to send with Kaleido Chick or maybe like Lunalight Fusion, just to get it into the graveyard so you can special summon another Lunalight from your hand. Maybe you have another Kaleido Chick in your hand, or you might want to summon Emerald Bird so you can discard maybe like Serenade Dance or Martin. So it's really good as an extender, so that is really good. It also helps you OTK with Leo Dancer. Maybe you just have Leo Dancer on field and they have an open board, and you just discard this, let the Leo Dancer gain 1,000, and that's like over 9,000. So that's really nice. And then for your other Lunalight Wolf, the other pendulum that's not banned, this card is really good. it's your miracle fusion of the deck, and it's not once per turn, or not a hard once per turn, so you can bounce it with Martin to fuse again, so you can make multiple Leo Dancers. You can make up to like 3 Leo Dancers in a turn, which is pretty insane. It's also a card you can bounce for free with Martin, because the thing with this deck is that you no longer have Tiger, so you need something to kind of like abuse in this deck, and Wolf is like the one card that you can use in this deck because it's the only other Lunalight that is a pendulum monster. It is also really good to pierce. If you don't know, Lunalight Wolf has another effect. If it's on the field and a Lunalight monster attacks a defense position monster, you can inflict piercing damage. So if your opponent has a defense position monster and you might not be able to go for a game, do keep in mind you can summon Wolf, pierce through that, and just, you know, attack for game, which is like really nice about this card, especially with Shaddoll's being in the format. So definitely look at this effect and, you know, consider it when you're playing this deck. And then the last monster is Yellow Martin, really good. If you played in Lunalight Orcus format, you know this card was just broken. But it's just really good, not only to add your Serenade Dance from the deck to the hand when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, but you also search the Lunalight Fusion. I'll get into this card in a bit, but it is really strong. So being able to search like both of your spell and trap cards in your deck is just like really good as utility. And as I said before, you can bounce like a Wolf back to your hand, or maybe you need like a Chick back into your hand so you can special off of the effect of like purple, or if you just need it for a follow-up turn, a follow-up play next turn or something like that. Emerald or Yellow Martin is just like really good. For the spells, 310 key mandatory, searches all your Lunalight monsters, is your Wolf. Foolish is really good to send Emerald Bird or Martin, which is really nice, or, you know, Purple Butterfly if you really need it. Foolish Barrel Goods, really good to send either your Perfume or your Serenade Dance. Forbidden Droplets is just really good against a lot of these combo decks. They end on like Seal Savage or Doka UCT, or they end on, you know, the Barrier Statue plus some more. So it's really good to out these boards, and you don't really care too much about interruptions that like target your monsters, because for the main reason, like Leo Dancer is just broken. It can't be targeted, it can't be destroyed, so you don't really care about most back row. The back row that you really care about is like the cards that don't target, like Schism, Ice Dragon Prison, you know, just like cards like those that just don't target and negate your Leo Dancer, or send your Leo Dancer to the graveyard, or, you know, Fleur de Lis as well. That's another card that can technically can out Leo Dancer, which really important to keep in mind. So the next card, Perfume. Perfume is just really good. It's your Monster Reborn. It's like a god card. Like these two cards are your god cards. This is like your 2-card combo. If you have these 2 cards, you pretty much can't lose, right? You can't lose with these 2. This is like your god card, especially if you have multiple of these cards. It's just like it's a Monster Reborn, and it searches the Lunalight. So don't know why you wouldn't max out on this. The next card, Lunalight Fusion. This card is super good, especially if your opponent's playing a combo deck. You just get free access to go into Leo Dancer just by, you know, sending your Panther Dancer from your extra deck to the graveyard. And then you get to send like an Emerald Bird or a Martin, then trigger those effects. And then it's just like free pluses, and you get Leo Dance on the board, and already you have a monster that threatens lethal on the board, or threatens to wipe out all of your opponent's monsters on the board. So that is really good about Lunalight Fusion. And the thing about Lunalight Fusion is if they negate the activation, you get to activate this card again, because it does say you can only activate 1 Lunalight Fusion per turn. So if they negate it with something like Savage, or they negate it with like Dragoon, you can activate another one. So having multiples of Lunalight Fusion against these negate cards are just really nice. But if they do ash you, you cannot activate another one because it negates the effect, not the activation. So do keep that in mind. And then you play the 1 Poly. Poly is searchable by your Black Sheep. This really helps you play around Lancia, because Lancia is just really good. If you don't know, Perfume banishes, Serenade Dance banishes, Wolf banishes. Technically Yellow Martin banishes, but you don't really care. Can't banish the Martin because you want it in the graveyard. But for the most part, it stops your Wolf, it stops your Perfume, it stops your Dance, and it also stops Desires if they use it in the standby phase. So do keep in mind, Lancia is a card you want to play around, or you don't want to play too much into. So having double fusions to go into double Leah Dancer is really nice. Next card, Desires. This is another card that you can activate multiples if they negate the activation, but it's just a draw two. Like, this card is just very broken. You want to play this card in your deck because even if you draw like another Desires, or you draw like multiple talents, or you draw multiples of any card, you can discard it with Perfume, you can discard it with your Serenade Dance, you can also discard it with Phoenix, Unicorn. So it doesn't matter if you draw multiples, you just want to see all of your broken cards, like your Chick, your Lunalight Fusion, or yeah, your Lunalight Fusion, your Lunalight Perfume. You just want to see all these broken cards at multiples. So having access to Desires is just really nice in this deck. You don't really care about what you banish, just as long as you don't banish like multiple, like Wolf, like all three of your Wolf is pretty bad. Or if you banish like multiple fusions is bad, or you know, you banish all your copies of Serenade Dance, it might be a little bit bad. So but for the most part, you're not really going to be hurt by Desires if you really think about it. Triple Talents, this card is very good going second. It not only takes a card from your opponent's side of the field just as a body on board and just more damage for game, you can also draw two. So if you need, you know, more combo cards like Tenki or Perfume, or you know, you need to dig for Lunalight Fusion or Kaleido Chick, you just have this to draw two. So you not only have Pot of Desires to draw two, you now have Talents to draw two. So you're drawing like 4 cards. So you're pretty much gonna get into, you know, Chick Tiger or Chick Perfume. I keep saying Chick Tiger, I know. Feels bad, man, right? But yeah, you just have so many cards you want to dig into to kind of OTK your opponent. So having something like Tactics Talent is just really nice. And then your trap card, Serenade Dance, you're only going to be using the banish effect. I don't think I've ever used the first effect to, you know, summon a token. It just never comes up. But definitely to summon a monster from the deck definitely comes up. And having multiples is definitely very good against the more grindier decks, like if you're playing against Ultra guys or Guru, or you know, Eldritch. Like the second one will probably come up, but the main reason you do play two is because of Desires. You don't want to banish the Serenade Dance. You just don't want to rely on, you know, having one in your deck and, you know, banish the only one copy of Serenade Dance. So that's why you play multiples, and it's really good to discard with something like Emerald Bird because it is a name, a Lunalight name. For the extra deck, you play one Cat Dancer. Sometimes this does come up to where you want to go into Cat Dancer. It's not too often, but having this in your deck is really good. So you can climb up into like Panther Dancer and maybe a Leo Dancer sometimes. Or if you just don't have enough like Lunalight monsters, you can go Cat Dancer, summon out a monster, tribute that monster, attack over all your opponent's monsters twice. So definitely very good to go for game if your opponent has a lot of monsters that are in attack position that have like, you know, small attacks. So if they have like, I don't know, it comes up sometimes, but for the most part, it just doesn't come up. Sometimes you're gonna send it to the graveyard so you can go into Panther Dancer, and then Panther Dancer can just be a better Cat Dancer at sometimes. So Panther Dancer, for the most part, you're gonna be sending this to the graveyard as well as something like Saber Dancer. But Saber Dancer is really good to get your Lunalights in the graveyard. Maybe you want to trigger like an Emerald Bird in your deck, or a Yellow Martin in your deck, or a Black Sheep in your deck. It's really good to go into this instead of Leo Dancer sometimes. So yeah, definitely Saber Dancer is decent. It also can't be targeted, so something like Punishment is just like not good against this card. It also gains 200 for each Beast Warrior that is banished in your graveyard. And another thing to note with this card is that if your opponent uses Maximus or Dogmatica Maximus, you want to send the Saber Dancer and the Panther Dancer to the graveyard, so you can have the Panther Dancer set up in your graveyard to banish with Wolf, to fusion summon into Leo Dancer, and then have your Saber Dancer be able to boost your Leo Dancer up to 7,500 attack. So that's really good against the Dogmatica deck, which is good. And then Leo Dancer is just your OTK card. There's not really much explaining about that. Dweller is really good if you're going first. If you've seen my combo video from like 3 months ago, you see that I end on Redoer plus, you know, a rank 4 monster, and Dweller's just like the best one. If not, you just go into Baguska, which is really, really good. So you not only have like Dweller and something like Redoer, you also might have like an Ash in your hand or Nibiru, just depending on the matchup. So I do keep in mind, like, this deck does have like a going first option if you did peep that video. But if you haven't, I'll leave it down in the description box below. Baguska, as I said before, this is for decks that don't rely on the graveyard. I'm not sure too much, but like the Dogmatica decks do kind of lose to the Baguska, but there's, you know, other matchups there that do lose to Baguska. But for the most part, you're going to be going into Dweller that hurts stuff like Dragon Link, dinosaurs. You have like Shadal's like loses this card somewhat. So you have like a lot of matchups that have graveyard effects, which is really good. Dugaris is really good for the 2-card combo. It's also really good to not only draw you cards, but it also does boost your Leo Dancer. So sometimes you might not have enough for game with just Leo Dancer, and being able to double the attack of Leo Dancer is just really, really nice. That's why you don't play the blue cat, that when it's special summon, it boosts your Leo Dancer up, because you just have Dugaris that just like, it's infinitely better, and it's not like a brick in your hand. Redoer is a really good card, especially against the grindier matchups like Dogmatica, you know, all the other control decks. It's just really, really good to continuously standby phase, get a card. If you get a trap card, you can bounce a card, or if you get a spell card, you can draw a card. So it just generates a lot of advantage, and it also takes resources out of their deck, which is very, very nice. And then for the Link monsters, you play Axis Code. This is good for climbing up with Unicorn and stuff like that. And then Phoenix. These 2 cards are just really, really good for getting rid of your opponent's back row or like their monster. And then Underclock Taker is really good for OTKing with something like Leo Dancer. In the OTK, you can just like put your opponent's monster to 0, then Leo Dancer attack, and then Leo Dancer destroys the whole board, and you attack, and then go, you know, for game, because that's 8,000 with Underclock Taker plus the Leo Dancer. So this is pretty much the deck. The side deck is the one that I'm still testing on. As I said before, Schism is a problem, as well as something like the Prank Kids deck, especially if they have the Bow Bark, because they're just gonna summon all their monsters, and you won't be able to out all their monsters, and they're just gonna have so much resources to kind of out your Leo Dancer on board. So you do want to get rid of the Pandemonium on standby, or get rid of the Schism on standby. So having these back row cards are just really, really nice for those decks. And then you have cards like Ash. Ash is just generically good against every deck, but you don't know if you really need it or not. It's more for the more combo decks, and that's the thing. Like this deck does have a really bad matchup against like those FTK decks. Like they just put up like multiple negates to where like droplets won't like affect it. Like, or they just make like King Kali Yuga. I know I faced like a Kali Yuga deck. It was just like, it was surprising, and I was like, I just didn't have any hand traps for it. I just lost to it. So do keep in mind, you do need hand traps. You can't just not play hand traps in this format. But I do play, you know, a minimal amount of hand traps, because you don't really need hand traps. You just need going second cards to break through your opponent's board to OTK them. But this is mainly for Dragon Link, like this package of Phantasme in Nibiru. This is really good, as well as Ash Blossom. If you don't know, the best way to kind of out the Dragon Link board, or just minimize the Dragon Link board efficiently, is to Phantasme, draw like 4 cards, get to like a Nib, get to like an Ash Blossom, and then nib them on the effect of LP, and then, you know, Ash to seal, so they don't have really anything else. They might have a Chaos Dragon Levy in there, but you don't really care. You still have like 4 cards to play with, and you still have a Phantasme on board. So that'll pretty much be enough to, you know, OTK them, especially if you're drawing 4. You're gonna draw into like Chick Tiger, or not Chick Tiger. I keep saying Chick Tiger. Jesus Christ. Chick Perfume. Chick Perfume is just like an FTK versus like everything if they just don't have a response for it. So you yeah, this is just mainly for Dragon Link. You can also play this against any other combo deck. Like Nib is really good against Prank Kids, as I said before. Ash is just generically good. Phantasma is good against any deck that Link summons, even against like Dogmatica Invoked. Like they go into, you know, Alistair, and then they go into the Moon Maiden, or they go into Almirage or Secure Gardener. So going Phantasma, drawing some cards is, you know, really nice, especially to fix your hand as well as to dig for stuff like Droplets, you know, talents, maybe dig into something like Typhoon and Twin Twisters to out their back row, mainly Schism. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something about this format. As I'm testing this deck, I'm going to kind of update you guys. Like, I'll leave this deck in the comment section or the description box below, so you can see my updated deck profiles as I'm just playing on rank Dueling Book, because this deck is very solid. It's very good. There's not many cards that beat this deck, especially Leo Dancer against a lot of these rogue decks, because there's a lot of rogue on Dueling Book, but there is a lot of, you know, Dragon Link, Shaddoll Invoke, Dinosaurs, Prank Kids at the higher level of Dueling Book, and you just want to prepare for those type of decks. Whatever your format is, you do want to prepare for it. So if your opponent's playing like Tri Brigade, you do want to side cards for Tri Brigade. If you know your meta is like Prank Kids, you want to side for Prank Kids. Mainly just out their board and just OTK. Just like the best way to OTK through their board, you want to look for side cards, you want to look for main cards to kind of like deal with the problematic cards with this deck. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I rambled on long enough. This is your updated, you know, deck profile. I didn't want to go too in depth, show replay and stuff like that, but if you do want to see like replays against like Dragon Link, Prank Kids, Dinosaurs, Shaddoll Invoke, do leave it in the comment section below, and I can kind of give you some replays when I do fish up some good replays to show you guys how to efficiently beat those type of decks. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'm out. Peace.